Have you ever just stopped and really thought about how you think? I mean, in our world of nonstop notifications and productivity hacks, has our thinking just become another tool, something to get things done? Or is there maybe a deeper, more meaningful way to engage with the world? Well, one philosopher thought this was such a huge problem, he made a pretty startling claim. And that's where the 20th century philosopher Martin Heidegger comes in with this bombshell of a quote. And, even though he said it decades ago, it feels more on point today than ever. He isn't just saying we need to think less or something simple like that. No, he's arguing that in an age that is just drowning in information, we've actually forgotten what it means to truly think at all.
All right, so here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to unpack what Heidegger really meant by that warning. Then we'll dive into his really important distinction between two different kinds of thinking. And from there, we'll explore two kind of surprising paths back to what he called real thought. One from Heidegger himself and another from Zen Buddhism, to see if they really hold an antidote for our busy modern lives.
So what on earth did Heidegger mean we are still not thinking? Well, he was looking around at the rise of the technological age, and he saw this really strange paradox. The reason he called our time thought-provoking was for one kind of chilling reason. Because he believed genuine thought was becoming nearly impossible to find. I mean, think about it. We live in a world that is completely obsessed with efficiency, with outcomes, with results. Our thinking has basically been boiled down to pure calculation. It's just a means to an end. He had a name for it, bereft thinking, as in it's been robbed or stripped of any deeper meaning. It's the kind of thinking that values speed and productivity over everything else.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. This has a very real human cost. The social philosopher Erich Fromm, he saw exactly where this road leads. It leads to a world where we become just cogs in a giant machine. Sure, we might be well-fed and entertained, but we also risk becoming passive and kind of disconnected from what makes us feel truly alive. So if we're all caught in this trap of bereft thinking, what's the way out? Well, the first step is to get a handle on this really key distinction that Heidegger makes. He says that we actually have two fundamentally different ways of thinking that are available to us.
Okay, so first there's calculative thinking. And let's be honest, this is the default mode for most of us, right? It's the thinking that computers do. It's business plans, it's optimization, it's always racing from one goal to the next. And we need it for sure, but it's not the whole story. And then there's meditative thinking. This is a whole different ballgame. This kind of thought doesn't race. It actually stops. It doesn't compute. It contemplates. It's not trying to get somewhere else. The act of thinking, right then and there, is the entire point.
So how do we actually learn to do this? How do we cultivate this deeper, meditative kind of thinking? Well, Heidegger gives us a pretty surprising path back. And the clue, well, it's been hiding in plain sight, right there in our own language this whole time. So check this out. Heidegger, being the deep thinker he was, goes digging into the history of language and finds something pretty incredible. In Old English, the word for to think was thinken, but it was inseparable from another word, thank, which meant a grateful thought. And where does that word lead? You guessed it, straight to our modern word, thank.
So what does this all mean? For Heidegger, it means that real thinking isn't just some cold, intellectual thing you do with your brain. It's a whole disposition, an attitude that's infused with thankfulness. It's about gratefully holding something in your mind, dwelling with it, and truly appreciating it. In its deepest, most original sense, to think is to think. But Heidegger's path of thinking isn't the only way out of the trap. A totally different tradition offers another escape route from that purely calculative mind, Zen Buddhism. Now, its approach is pretty radical, but as you'll see, the goal is surprisingly similar. You see, in Zen, the ultimate goal is something called satori. It's like a flash of sudden awakening, a direct insight into the nature of reality. But here's the kicker. You don't get there through careful, step-by-step logic. Satori only happens when the logical mind finally gives up, when it's totally exhausted itself and gets out of the way.
So how does Zen do this? One of its most famous tools is the koan. Just consider this one for a second. What is your original face before you were born? I mean, there's no logical answer to that, is there? The question is specifically designed to short-circuit that rational, problem-solving part of your brain. And that is the entire point. A koan is not a riddle you're supposed to solve. It's a tool. It's like a wrench you throw into the gears of the machine. It's designed to push your calculative mind to its absolute limit until it's forced to just give up and make a leap into a totally new state of consciousness that is direct, immediate, and way beyond simple logic. So let's pull back for a second. We've got two pretty distinct paths here: Heidegger's meditative thinking as thinking, and Zen's non-rational breakthrough. So what happens when we start to see them as a combined antidote for our time? You know, when you put them side by side, the shared power is pretty incredible. Both traditions are trying to push us past pure logic. They both really frown upon thinking that's just a tool to get something done. They both are aiming for a kind of direct experience of truth, what you could call unconcealment. They value silence over constant chatter, and they reconnect us to a deeper sense of meaning, reminding us that true thought is an end in itself. Ultimately, what both Heidegger and Zen are doing is inviting us to make a really fundamental shift. They're asking us to stop treating the world and even our own minds like a collection of resources to be managed and optimized. They're calling us back to a way of being that's more present, more open, and a lot more authentic. Which really brings us to the final and most essential question. And this one is for you. In a world that is constantly screaming for results, for more efficiency, how will you carve out space for the kind of thinking that doesn't calculate? How will you practice a way of thinking that is also a kind of thinking? A thinking that can simply wonder at the world without ever asking, what's it for?